The 2019 draft is in the books. Dave Birkett here along with Shawn, Windsor, and Carlos Monarrez coming in from off camera. And guys, the Lions had a busy day 3. Let's tackle that first before we sort of wrap everything up. And they added a defensive end, a cornerback, another tight end. The couple positions they didn't add, quarterback and offensive guard. And Bob Quinn just talked about this a little bit. I thought they needed an offensive guard. You know, it's one of the positions that sort of stood out to me. Thought they might add a backup quarterback, just somebody to compete for that backup job behind Matthew Stafford. But those are really the only 2 areas, it appears at least, that they did not address here in the draft. How do you come out feeling about today? How do you come out feeling about the draft in general?
You know, I think it was a little bit of a rough start, but definitely in day 2, day 3, they did better. They found, I think, better value. They found some need. They, definitely fitting guys to their scheme, to their idea of how they want to build the team. It's not everybody's cup of tea the way they're doing it, but I think it was better. It made a little bit more sense with some of the picks that they made. I don't know if they found any great stars on this team yet, but there's potential, and I like what they did with some of the guys, the defensive end.
Austin Bryant
from Clemson. Yes. And they had some guys who made selfless decisions. I'm sorry, it's a cast of thousands. Who was the one guy who skipped? His calf was bothering him. I don't know. There were lots of guys who just, I think they had interesting stories, and I think that you saw how the Lions could find value in them. That they weren't the stars that were out there that maybe people might have reached for. It felt like Bob Quinn said they didn't reach for guys. You don't do that on day 3. Yep. You let the board tell you where to pick guys. The tight end.
Hence the tight end pick, Isaac Nada from Georgia. Yeah. That's what he said. He said he stood out like a sore thumb. That's why they went with there. Shawn, I want to ask you. Look, Carlos mentioned something. The way they're building, right? And I think we talked about this a little bit the other day. But the Lions, say what you will about the picks. If you don't like them, you like them, whatever. But they're clearly following a plan, right? This is how they want to build the defense. And maybe we don't always get it right. The second round pick, Jelani Tavai, right? I think a lot of people, who's that guy? Who are they taking right there? Nobody knew him, but he's a big linebacker. He sort of fits what they want to do. I mean, Bryant's another one of these defensive end, defensive tackle types. He had some production at Clemson. Even the big guy at the end, P.J. Hill, is that right? P.J. Johnson. P.J. Hill. P.J. Johnson. Yeah, 2 Johnsons. But P.J. Johnson, the big nose tackle who visited here. I mean, that's a guy that, in theory, he could replace Snacks. They need that big nose tackle. So they're building the way that Matt Patricia envisions this team to be, and give him credit for that.
Well, and frankly, Bob Quinn, this is what he wanted. Right? He's liberated. Can we say that? And he doesn't give it.
What do you say out there?
And that's what I wrote for my column tomorrow, actually. And the headline is, if you're feeling blue about the draft, Bob Quinn doesn't give a damn. And he doesn't.
Wow.
And I think...
Potty mouth, man.
Well, I'm sorry. But I think that's a good thing, though. Now he's got to win, right? I mean, that's all that really matters. But what he's done, this draft in particular, I think this is probably the freest he's felt, and in the context of how he learned football, and he talked about that.
That's right. That's what he admitted.
Right. So, look, he said they got faster. They did, maybe not in the first 2 rounds, but they're physical in the first 2 rounds, and they're versatile in the first 2 rounds with the linebacker and with Hawkinson at the tight end. But they did add some speed and some athleticism in spots.
Well, because I think what they want is they want to be big up front. They want those big thumpers. You win with big guys. He said bigger is better. But then in the back end, they want speed. They do want length. I mean, you look at Tracy Walker last year, even Will, the cornerback they drafted this year. He's a little
Will
longer.
Harris, right?
Yeah, or safety.
He can run
this
too.
year, 6'1". But they need guys that are fast in the back end. Because of how they want to play back there and what they want to do up front. But you're right. What Bob Quinn said, and that really stood out to me, was he feels more comfortable drafting for this style defense than he did for Jim Caldwell. And it begs the question: you should have made the change earlier. Why not make that change earlier? I mean,
well, it's not just with Jim Caldwell versus Matt Patricia. He's more comfortable also because he's been doing it longer.
Right.
I mean, like Carl's been doing it for 20 years. He's still not comfortable, but you're clearly comfortable. So for most of us, we learn to relax a little bit and say what we think and do what we want to do.
I don't like to say what I think. I'm very cautious and guarded, but
I
think what Dave says is very interesting because it's kind of the tale of 2 Bob Quinns. The first one was the careful, I'm not going to do the wrong thing. Martha Quinn. Well, Martha Quinn, I love Jim Caldwell. He's not going to fire the coach that Martha Ford says she loves. So, but he should have done it. He waited 2 years to do it, right? Because it wasn't going to be a politically popular thing. But now he's very comfortable. Now he is making what I think most fans, even though you understand it, like because it's their method or whatever, their theory of how to build a team, people are scratching their heads over some of these picks. The Tracy Walkers and the Jelani Tavai. And, I mean, that's the kind of thing. And he and Matt and Matt Patricia are hanging themselves out there. I mean, this better work, because there is I'm not going to say a mania, but a real hey, it's I said this, I wrote this a little bit. It's a little bit like getting Jordan Dyson to fit the Tampa 2, we're committed to the scheme, to this. Trust me. Yeah. I know that iceberg's ahead, but we're fine. I mean, that's the thing. They're committed to this. It has to work.
But it always better work. Every time.
Well,
I mean,
no.
That's the NFL. It always better work.
But sometimes
if you win or you're gone. It's not that complicated.
Because even if you drafted Columba Edwards, somebody who had a lot of promise and had a high grade, and everybody admitted, but he just didn't pan out, you really don't fault him or even Charles Rogers necessarily. Like, someone had a lot of talent but some issues, but he seemed like the right pick, But these are strange picks that have to. You're saying, trust me, because they fit my system. This is why I'm getting him. I know better than all of you, which is fine, but it better work.
Carlos, you're bringing up the Dyson is an interesting name, because as I think back on the Matt Millen era, you just think of Millen throwing darts all over the place. They change coordinators every single year. They change coaches every other year. There just never seemed to be a plan, right? Like, I don't think that taking 3 straight receivers was part of any plan. I think it was just like, I'm going to take Mike Williams this year, because that's kind of the thought I had when I woke up this morning, right? But you're right. Dyson was a Tampa 2 fit, and they did, as I think back now, maybe there were some guys that they did. I mean, Drew Stanton was a Matt Millen, character type guy. Like, okay, like I like what he brings to the table in the locker room, and as a quarterback, and his grittiness and his toughness. So we have seen elements of this before. Look, I've said it before. I think, there's 100 ways to build a football team, and you can be successful anyway. And the Lions are certainly doing that. But obviously, the risk then, if you were to change up, you got a bunch of guys that don't necessarily fit the next system, and that's why bad teams tend to be bad teams, because you keep changing and you keep undergoing scheme changes, you keep needing new fits, and it's just a cycle that repeats itself.
Well, one thing that's interesting about this is, there's a plan. I think that's one thing maybe the fans can take comfort in. And at least it's not a Millen scattershot. We're going to see there's a plan. The only problem is it's the Patriots' plan, and the only problem is there's one person who makes that team work, and he's not here, and he's not coming here. No, it's one person. Brady's great, but it's Belichick. Belichick is the dude. He's the genius. Because he did it before Brady. He did it in with the Giants, and then with the Cleveland.
You mean with Bill Parcells?
With Parcells. I mean, he was been a genius a long time. And Lawrence Taylor. And so
Matt's a rocket scientist. Does that count?
Well, he's a rocket scientist, and if it's the first time it's going to work, fine. Were you going to try to steal the plans from the the blueprints from the headquarters? But I mean, that's the only thing is are they going? How long are they going to stick with this if it doesn't work? But
we'll find that out, because he doesn't have any excuses, because these are the type of guys.
Well,
and
what did you just say out there? He just said we got better, right? So now we got no.
You always say that every time.
Yeah, but you're going to say that, so you got to prove it at some point. And let's talk about the elephant in the room, or the freaky hallucinogenic-inducing styrofoam in the room.
They soundproof
the soundproof, right?
So Carlos, before you shut it off, you can take a video.
You're right. Speaking of the Patriots, this is to me what we can say about Patricia. Maybe of all the coaches that have left, he is most equipped, at least on the defensive side of the ball, to scheme some of that out. The question is, can he teach it? And can he teach it to players and communicate with them and get them to play for him, right? So the other parts of coaching, the strategy, the vision, all that's there. I mean, you can see that. And then you combine that with Quinn. No other organization has quite gone all in New England this way, have they? Or have they? I mean, did Crennel do that in Cleveland, right? I mean, did
John Robinson, Mike Vrabel is sort of one right now that's going down the same path.
Another one. Vrabel's a different kind of personality.
Did it but look, offensively.
I don't know
offensively, but you haven't seen the defensive GM in sync anywhere else. I'm not saying that's going to work, but this is at least a little bit different. It's an interesting experiment.
That's the sales pitch, at least. I mean, that's why they are doing it. Right.
For sure.
We know each other well, and again, it certainly could work. And yeah, look, I think they're getting him the right pieces, so there should be no excuses. Like, they need to take a step forward this year. If they don't, then it's fair to question and say, well, look, and I know it's only been 2 years, but right, we got you Damon Harrison. It's not just
Trey
about the rookies, right? We got you Trey Flowers. So they brought in a lot of the pieces that they need. And the defense played pretty well last season. It was the offense, when the injuries mounted and Golden Tate was traded, that struggled and let them down. they're building the offense in Patricia's image too, with Hawkinson and Isaac Nada, and they've got 6 tight ends now, and they had 0 last year. So we'll see what happens at that position, how this offense looks under Darrell Bevell.
Well, the 2 points to that, I think, is the offense. But the defense, at least, it's like, well, that's Patricia's thing, right? And the defense did take a leap last year. You can see there's some promise there, and they invested a lot in defense. It felt for a while they were going to say, "Hey, Darrell Bevell, we got you Hawkinson, and now you can go home now. We're going to be done." They didn't They didn't pick another. 4 straight draft picks, all defensive, and finally Travis Fulgham from Old Dominion, which. Did anybody ever watch him play? I mean,
he was at the Senior Bowl. I mean, nobody watched him play, but he was at the Senior Bowl.
So, did they give
prospect.
Darrell Bevell? I mean, that's the unit that struggled. They were like, whatever, 26 or something, 24, 25 overall.
Well, because of health in part, right? So maybe Kerryon Johnson.
Look, I think there were a lot of issues on offense last year.
And they didn't address the guard.
It was a square peg, round hole sort of deal with Jim Bob Cooter in the offense. I mean, they traded Tate. That certainly wasn't good. They lost Kerryon. They lost Marv. There were a lot of issues there. As you look at the offense right now, it's going to be Jesse James and T.J. Hawkinson that are playing a lot. So you need 2 receivers. Danny Amendola is, he's the 5th option out of that pass catching core right now. And yes, Travis Fulgham, Tommy Lee Lewis, whoever the 4th guy is going to be, you need a 4th guy because maybe there's some injuries.
Right.
But that's just. I mean, that's a future pick, right? That's one that you're rolling the dice on that maybe he hits. So I agree
Same
with you.
with the running back.
They didn't do a lot on offense this year.
Ty Johnson.
But they did add a pretty key piece for what they want to do in T.J. Hawkinson and the best available at that position. So
and he said one of the glaring omissions is right guard. And Bob Quinn just said that he felt comfortable. Do you feel comfortable with who they have at right guard to start?
I'm not dropping back to pass. So
well, does Matthew Stafford feel comfortable?
All right. Do I think they could upgrade? Absolutely. I think that is the one single biggest weakness on the team. But Hawkinson helps your blocking up front. Look. I don't know if it's going to be Kenny Wiggins or Ode Abuche or maybe it's Terrell Crosby, whatever. Abuche played for Darrell Bevell, so there is some familiarity with the system. I mean, there's some things that maybe the Lions are counting on and banking on. And if you're going to take a guard in round 4 or 5, he's probably not starting for a year 1 anyways. That's another futuristic type pick. So it's something that, yes, I think that's still a weakness on the team. Yes, I still think they need a number 3 receiver. I mean, as I look towards the future, I still think they need somebody at that position. But you can't get everything when you got 9 picks in the draft and there's only a couple that are in the first 80 picks.
I just don't know if there was enough emphasis to try to help that offense because I mean there were top 10 defense, but unless
round 2, this all comes round 2 is the big one because again nobody knows Jelani Tavai. That's the big mystery. I know everybody out there is what do we have here? Even in here we're still like, could they have taken somebody different? Maybe it was an offensive guy, maybe it was a different defensive player. Nobody knows, and so we'll see how that pick pans out. To me, I mean, he's the 4th linebacker, so you took a backup in round 2, at least for 2019. Though again, a position of need as you look down the road. All right, so let's wrap up some of the draft talk here. I just want best pick, worst pick as you come away from this draft. Again, the Lions added 9 picks, a bunch of them today. They had the Hawkinson one. Up top, which I think everyone agrees he's a good player. It's just about the value of a tight end at that spot at number 8. So, Carlos, let's start with you. Your favorite pick and your least favorite pick by Bob Quinn this week.
Will Harris, a safety from Boston College. He was taken in the 3rd round. He was my favorite pick. I think I gave him a B in my grade. I think
really loved it. You gave him a B, huh?
Yeah. That was as high as it went. Sorry, guys. But I think he he oozes leadership. Bob Quinn said that he knows a lot of people at Boston College, and everybody talked about him. He was the guy. He's a leader. Stats, he was 4-year. He was a team captain, productive.
It's funny you bring him up because that was the pick that I gave him the lowest grade on. Just
really,
yeah. I just had asking around a little bit, and some people thought really good safety class, and you got sort of a 2nd-tier guy that's not going to be a starter, and they didn't really. Some of the people, at least across the league that I trust, they were kind of like, runs, he's fast, he's long, but, they just didn't like the
play safety.
Yeah, they just didn't like what the Lions did there. And they thought in a deep safety class, and where some people thought that was a position of need,
was that already gone, though?
I don't remember who was on the board off the top of my head, but look, I mean, that was one, like, when you get to day 2, there's still some safeties on the board, and that's when you take that linebacker ahead of some of those other defensive players. That's what, when we look back at this draft and we say, this guy hit, this guy missed, we'll take a long look at who they drafted him in front of.
Least favorite was Tavai. I mean, Tavai is I'll never get it until the dude comes up with 10 sacks and whatever, 10 interceptions, whatever. I'm not going to get it.
Not buying the Jelani Tavai.
No.
Well, it wasn't a top 5 pick. Did he have to come up with that kind of production?
Yeah, second rounder.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
all right.
Unrealistic expectations.
Yeah,
I know you have the Jordan Dizon expectation.
What to say to that.
He has to be good. How about that?
Yeah, good. He needs to be good.
Quantify it anyway.
Does he need to be a top 10 pick? Good.
No.
He has to be good.
Of course not. I mean, I'm just.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. It's between the styrofoam and now Carlos. My head is spinning.
It is kind of weird to. Anyway.
To me, the best pick was Hawkinson, and because it wasn't a safe pick. Right? They had to know fans were going to get irritated. They struggled with Eric Ebron, or they didn't. I mean, he didn't. Bob Quinn didn't take him, but I thought that was a gutsy pick in a lot of ways. And this guy ended up being really, really good. And I'm with you on Harris. To me, that was the pick I didn't understand as much because from what I've read, and the analysts suggested, he's fast, he can run, he's rangy. I mean, he's tall. But does he know how to play safety? Does he know where he has to be? The instinctive part of it. I don't know.
He has versatility. That's the one thing, and they're going to move him around.
Well,
true, but that was the one thing I saw was consistent in the questioning of the weakness.
Bob talked today about not reaching and taking the guys at the top of the board, and on day 2, it seemed to me that they were drafting very specifically for positions. Again, not knowing their board, we don't have access to their board, but it seemed like they wanted to come out of there with a linebacker, and then they traded up for the safety, so they wanted, obviously, to get some help for that secondary. And I'm with you. The Harris one, that was the one that, again, not that I scratch my head. You sort of know who he is as a prospect, but that's the one that at least the feedback that I got, the value didn't quite seem to fit the pick there. The Hawkinson, look, what you said about Hawkinson, somebody had asked me this in the chat that I did the other day. They said, what would the riskiest pick Bob makes be? And I said, Bob doesn't make risky picks, first of all, right? He tends to go with those high floor guys. But I sort of agreed that it would be Hawkinson just because you're passing on so many defensive players with upside and who can fit and who are supposed to be really good. So I didn't give that pick the highest grade because I do struggle with the tight end value a little bit. I like him as a player. I don't dislike the pick, but I thought there were some defensive players that might have provided better value. I'm going to butcher his name, Amani Oraye. I don't. Again, let's call him Amani. All right? Quarterback from Penn State. I like that one on day 2. I just thought there was some value there. He has some size, has some physical traits. Probably spells the end of Tease Tabor in Detroit.
He runs a 4.4
Yeah, he's a big cornerback like Tabor, but he ran a sub 4.5 at the combine. So, look, you need some length. They want length at least in their secondary. They want some speed. I think he adds that. So I think that's a day 3 pick that has a chance to. And it's one of those scratch-off tickets that he's probably not going to do a lot this year, but maybe you can cash that in and get a few bucks in a few years for him. So that's the pick that I gave the highest grade to.
Who was your least favorite?
Harris.
Yeah. Over the Hawaiian nobody that we.
Yeah, I mean, look, because we talked about that yesterday. Just the feedback that I got
people that like him,
from some of the scouts was, they thought maybe it was high. Some people thought the Patriots were going to take him if the Lions didn't, but he fit what the Lions want. He was there weren't a lot of big linebackers left. He can rush the passer a little bit and do some things. He's not very fast. Again, I understand the.
It's not the person; it's the pick where they're picked.
And I get that, but the feedback I got on Harris was a little more negative than the feedback I got on the linebacker. I'm not going to pronounce his name either. Jelani. Let's call him Jelani. Tavai.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, he doesn't have that difficult name to pronounce. All right. Any final thoughts before we get out of here? Because this is this is sort of the. I mean, I know we still have OTAs and minicamp, but this is sort of the. We can cruise into spring a little bit now when it comes to the Lions because they're going to be out on the field getting ready for work, but there's no pads. There's not a whole lot.
Look, and I echo you a little bit. I don't like to do that normally, but they're all in. Quinn, they went all in with this draft. This is who they want to be. This is who they are, and we'll see if it works. Right?
And maybe we'll find out this fall because I think they need to be better than 6-10. They need to show some progress. Not that they need to go 13-3 and win the Super Bowl, but they need to show some progress. Coming off last year was an abomination. So they can't repeat that.
Let me ask you one question as we leave, and something I did want to ask you for a while was
why am I so good looking?
Why haven't any of us shaved?
I think we've understood that for a long time.
I was in Nashville for a few days, and
sorry.
At the owners' meetings, when you spoke with Patricia when Belichick came behind them, was that the owners' meetings? Okay. And he started this interesting sort of thought, whereas when you were talking about the record, the 6-10, and he started saying 6-10, 7-9, 8-8. It doesn't matter if you don't win. Nothing matters. Are they going to start this propaganda of it doesn't matter? 6-10 last year, but this year we finished 5-11. It's still not good enough. It's a process. It's going to take a while. I mean, are we going to let them get away with that? Because I didn't see any pushback on that kind of talk of he's starting this down the road. It doesn't matter if we're 3-13 or 7-9 or it's unless we win. So
I think we didn't push back because it was one of those long-winded 3-minute answers that he gives, and you sort of forgot what he says at the beginning of it by the time he got to the end of it. But no, I mean, I think just the point that he was making was that he's trying to win the Super Bowl, and so he didn't get there.
Really?
And had he won 10 games, he would. They didn't get there. But no, you're right. Look, it matters. At 10-6, you're in the playoffs. You got a shot to win the Super Bowl. You're in the dance. You're progressing. At 6-10, you're not. And so, no, look, 5-11 is not acceptable. 6-10 is not acceptable. I mean, they need to take a major step forward this year. I think they need to do something where, when you look back at the season in 2019, you say, you know what, I feel really good about the direction that this Lions team is headed.
They need to win 9 or 10 games.
Yeah, 7-9 isn't. It's a step forward, but that's not like something that's going to leave you feeling good about the season. So, to answer your question, are we going to let them get away with it? I don't think it's up to us. I think it's up to Martha Ford and Rod Wood and everybody else upstairs.
Okay, I was just curious because nobody seemed to make a big deal about that, and it really bothered me that he was starting this sort of talk about.
Well, what season would you rather have? The Bears last year at 10-6, where they took a huge step forward, or the Lions at 6-10, where they took a step back?
Yeah, and and that's the thing is you need whatever the record is, who cares? But if you get in the playoffs, or if you get a first round bye, if you host a home playoff, those are steps. I mean, the record, is somewhat who cares as long as you get there, you do the right things. Or if you show a lot of promise, and let's say if Stafford or Carrion both got hurt in the same game, and it'd be there's always context. But I just don't like this. The record just doesn't matter at all unless you win the Super Bowl. So there's 31 teams.
I don't think that's
not what he was saying.
No, I don't think that's the road he was going down. I think he was just saying, we have bigger goals.
Exactly.
We're trying
to get
to
in the playoffs, win 10 double-digit games, that kind of thing.
We're trying to put the pieces in place to reach the ultimate goal.
So when they go 7-9, like you predicted, you're not going to give them a pass because you said
give myself a pat on the back for being right. That's what I'll do.
By the way, he picked you in one of your 15 mock drafts, and the last one he got T.J. Hawkinson.
And I would have gone with 3 of them if I didn't do that trade mock draft, but. They didn't telegraph it.
I argued they should pick him last week.
It seemed like a fit, right? Right? Everybody knew it except Carlos, who had Joe Williams.
I give Bob, like you said, Bob Quinn full credit for. I don't care about Eric Ebron. I'm picking him, and he's gonna. It is one of those decisions that gets you fired if Hawkinson doesn't pan out, and the narrative is already there, right? With the Lions have taken several tight ends, very few tight ends over the last 15 years. They've gone in the first round. The Lions have taken 2, and it's already
10
there.
of them now. 10 of them in 11 years. The Lions have taken 3 of them.
What gets you fired is going 6-10 the next 2-3 years.
Bad decisions. Bad decisions make you weird reaches and weird. Because it's always hindsight. Because nobody will remember this about, he was a good player and this and that. They're going to say, what? Another Eric Ebron.
One of them leads to the other. That's what it is. The bad decisions lead to the 6-10.
Yeah, but you get fired for
chicken or an
winning.
egg. Yeah.
Come on. It's
All
not
right.
that complicated.
Let's wrap this up here.
Carlos is speechless. It's time to go.
We left Carlos speechless, so we're going to end it on that. For Grumpy and Happy and me, I'm Dave Birkett. Thanks for joining us here on Freep.com.
I thought it was lumpy. No.
Well, that too.